It was a night that left me shivering, a tale that still haunts my dreams to this day. You see, it all began innocently enough, with the promise of a joyful celebration, but little did anyone know the horrors that awaited. The party was held in an old, decrepit mansion on the outskirts of town. It was a place rumored to be cursed, with a history steeped in darkness and tragedy. The host, a distant acquaintance of mine, had chosen this eerie location to create an unforgettable experience. As I arrived, the air was thick with an inexplicable unease, and a full moon hung in the sky, casting eerie shadows over the mansion's ominous facade. Walking through the creaking doors, I was greeted by flickering candles and dim, flickering lights that barely illuminated the gloomy rooms. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and the very atmosphere seemed to hold its breath. Guests were dressed in costumes ranging from macabre to downright disturbing, each embodying their own dark fantasies. A table adorned with decadent yet unsettling dishes awaited, but the food's appeal was overshadowed by the dread that lingered in the air. The host, clad in a cloak that concealed their identity, welcomed each guest with an unsettling grin that sent shivers down my spine. The partygoers engaged in unnerving conversations, their laughter carrying an unsettling undertone. As the night progressed, strange occurrences became more frequent. Objects moved on their own accord, eerie whispers echoed down the hallways, and the temperature seemed to plummet with every passing moment. Makeshift chants was suggested by an enthusiastic guest, and against my better judgment, I found myself partaking. Gathered around a makeshift Ouija board, we attempted to communicate with the other side. At first, it seemed like a joke, until the planchette began moving of its own accord. The messages we received were cryptic, hinting at a tragic event that had occurred within the very walls we stood. Suddenly, the candles flickered wildly, and an otherworldly gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing the flames. Panicked screams filled the air as the lights went out completely, plunging us into an inky darkness. Fumbling for my phone, I managed to illuminate the room with its feeble flashlight. What I saw will forever haunt my memories: ghostly apparitions, indistinct shadows, and a sense of malevolence that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. Mid the chaos, a blood-curdling scream echoed from the upper floors, freezing everyone in place. The host, their once confident demeanor shattered, urged us to leave immediately. With hearts pounding and terror gripping our souls, we fled the mansion, vowing never to return. In the aftermath, the host disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a trail of unanswered questions and the lingering sense that we had brushed against something unspeakably evil that night. The mansion was abandoned once more, its curse seemingly awakened by the ill-fated birthday party. And so, my friend, that is the chilling tale of the most terrifying birthday party I ever witnessed. A night of celebration that turned into a night of unspeakable horror, forever etched into my memory as a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk beyond the veil of the mundane. Let me share with you a bone-chilling tale of a birthday party that still sends shivers down my spine. It was a night of festivities that took a turn into the realms of darkness, leaving us questioning our sanity and the very fabric of reality itself. The party was held in an old mansion, nestled deep within a forest that seemed to whisper secrets to those who ventured too close. The air was heavy with anticipation as we arrived, adorned in our most elaborate costumes. The host, a friend of a friend, had a reputation for throwing eccentric parties, but none could have prepared us for what was to come. The mansion was bathed in an eerie, pale moonlight as we entered, casting long, unsettling shadows that danced along the walls. Dim candlelight flickered throughout the rooms, illuminating twisted decorations that seemed to come straight from a nightmare. The host, dressed in an enigmatic mask, welcomed us with an unsettling grin, his eyes glinting with a strange intensity. Guests mingled nervously, their laughter masking an underlying tension that seemed to thicken with every passing moment. The atmosphere was charged with an otherworldly energy, as if the very walls held the memories of horrors long past. The air was heavy with a scent that I couldn't quite place, a mixture of damp earth and something more sinister. A long table was set with a feast that was both alluring and unsettling, dishes that resembled odd concoctions from twisted fairy tales. As we partook in the feast, strange whispers seemed to float through the air, and the shadows cast by the candlelight seemed to move of their own accord. The unease in the room was palpable, Yet we were all drawn deeper into the party's twisted enchantment. As the night progressed, the host unveiled a series of disturbing games that sent shivers down our spines. From a game of truth or terror that revealed hidden fears to a ritualistic dance that seemed to beckon ancient spirits, each activity seemed designed to push the boundaries of reality and sanity. The laughter turned nervous, and the smiles began to waver. In a daring attempt to embrace the spirit of the party, a séance was suggested. Reluctantly, we gathered around a makeshift circle, our fingers on a planchette that seemed to move of its own volition. The messages we received were cryptic and unsettling, hinting at a malevolent presence that had been awoken by our intrusion into its domain. As the séance reached its climax, the mansion was plunged into darkness. Panic spread like wildfire as screams echoed through the corridors. The candle flames flickered out, one by one, leaving us in pitch-black darkness. We stumbled through the inky blackness, the sound of our pounding hearts the only thing that reassured us we were still alive. Just as terror threatened to consume us completely, the lights flickered back on, revealing the mansion in a state of disarray. The host, his once confident demeanor shattered, urged us to leave, his voice trembling with fear. We fled the mansion, our minds racing to comprehend the horrors we had experienced. In the aftermath, the mansion was said to have been left abandoned, the echoes of that fateful party etched into its very walls. The host disappeared, leaving behind only a chilling legend and a group of traumatized souls who would never forget the night that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. The memory of that night still sends shivers down my spine, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most ordinary situations can lead to the most extraordinary horrors. The protagonist of our tale is a woman named Emily, known for her love of the unusual and the mysterious. Her birthday was fast approaching, and she had planned an intimate gathering with a few close friends at her family's remote cabin deep in the woods. The cabin was a rustic haven, surrounded by towering trees and the soft rustling of leaves, the perfect setting for an idyllic celebration. As dusk settled, the cabin's warm glow beckoned to us from a distance. The air was cool and crisp, and a sense of excitement hung in the atmosphere as we arrived one by one. Emily, radiant with joy, welcomed us with open arms and a wide smile that couldn't hide her anticipation for the evening ahead. The party began innocently enough. We shared laughter, stories, and delicious homemade food around a crackling fireplace. The mood was light, and the cozy ambience eased away any traces of worry. But as the night wore on, an odd unease seemed to creep in. Subtle sounds from the forest outside grew louder, the hooting of an owl, the rustling of branches, and each time Emily's smile faltered just a little. As the clock struck midnight, Emily proposed a game. It was a harmless-seeming activity, a séance to communicate with the spirits of the cabin, a tribute to the history and stories her family had shared about the place. We gathered around a small table, our fingers resting on an old Ouija board. The atmosphere grew tense as Emily's voice quivered through the incantations. At first, nothing happened. We exchanged nervous glances, our fingers twitching on the planchette. Then, gradually, it began to move. The planchette spelled out words that seemed to make no sense, fragments of sentences that held a hauntingly cryptic meaning. The temperature in the room dropped, and an unsettling wind seemed to sweep through rustling curtains and sending a chill down our spines. Just as we were about to break away from the game, a loud thud echoed from the nearby hallway. Our hearts pounded in unison as we exchanged terrified glances. With trembling hands, we ventured out to investigate, only to find a shattered picture frame lying on the floor. The photograph within depicted a smiling Emily as a child, surrounded by her family, a stark contrast to the eerie atmosphere that had enveloped us. Fear gnawed at us, but we brushed it off as an unfortunate accident, attributing it to the old cabin's wear and tear. We returned to the living room, our voices shaky as we tried to regain our composure. The fire in the fireplace crackled, casting flickering shadows that seemed to dance menacingly on the walls. Then the lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. Panic surged as Emily's terrified scream pierced the air. As our eyes adjusted to the dark, we saw her standing by the window, her gaze locked on the glass. When we followed her line of sight, we saw a spectral figure standing outside, illuminated by the moonlight. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity, and a feeling of malevolence radiated from it. With a primal instinct, we fled the cabin, leaving behind all thoughts of explanations or rationality. The woods seemed to close in around us as we sprinted through the undergrowth, our hearts pounding like war drums. When we finally reached the safety of the road, we dared to look back, but the cabin stood silent and dark, as if the horrors we had experienced were nothing but a nightmare. This tale revolves around a young man named Alex and the harrowing birthday celebration that forever etched itself into the memory of everyone who attended. The party was held in a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of town, a grand and opulent venue that oozed luxury and charm. Alex, known for his extravagant tastes, had spared no expense in orchestrating an unforgettable night for his friends. The mansion gleamed with soft lights and elegant decorations, and the air was alive with the buzz of excitement as guests arrived, dressed in their finest attire. Laughter and music filled the air as the party kicked off, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. The opulent ballroom was adorned with glistening chandeliers, casting a warm and inviting glow over the dancing couples. A lavish banquet boasted a variety of delectable dishes, and the clinking of glasses punctuated animated conversations. But as the night progressed, a peculiar unease began to weave its way into the atmosphere. Whispers circulated among the guests, each person sensing an undercurrent of something unsettling, though no one could quite put their finger on it. Alex, typically the life of the party, seemed distant and preoccupied, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for something that eluded him. In an attempt to dispel the strange tension, Alex suggested a game, a scavenger hunt that would take the guests throughout the mansion. Initially met with enthusiasm, the game took on an eerie twist when clues began leading participants into dimly lit corridors and long-forgotten rooms. The mansion's grandeur now felt suffocating, and the walls seemed to whisper secrets. As the hunt continued, participants stumbled upon odd artifacts, ancient trinkets, cryptic symbols, and unsettling paintings that seemed to watch with unseen eyes. The unease deepened as guests grew more disoriented, their laughter now tinged with nervousness. One by one, they were led into a room, its walls adorned with disturbing portraits that seemed to shift and change when observed too closely. The climax of the scavenger hunt was a locked door that seemed to radiate an aura of malevolence. A key was found, and with a collective sense of trepidation, the door was opened. The room beyond was bathed in an eerie, greenish light that cast twisted shadows along the walls. At its center stood a mirror unlike any other. Its surface rippled as if water, and within its depths, whispered voices seemed to beckon. Unable to resist the pull of the mirror's mesmerizing presence, some guests hesitantly gazed into it. Their reflections began to warp and distort, revealing twisted and horrifying visages that seemed to belong to an alternate reality. Panic rippled through the room as they tried to turn away, but an unseen force held them captive, their screams blending with the haunting whispers. Alex, who had been a spectator until now, rushed forward, frantically calling for his friends to snap out of their trance. The mirror's grip tightened, its pull growing stronger, threatening to drag them into its nightmarish depths. With a surge of adrenaline, Alex shattered the mirror with a nearby chair, breaking the spell and releasing the guests from its clutches. As the mirror shattered, the mansion itself seemed to shudder, and a chilling wind swept through the room. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, shadows danced along the walls in bizarre and unsettling patterns. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the strange phenomena ceased. The mansion returned to its previous state, but the memory of that night haunted the minds of those who had experienced it. This story revolves around a young woman named Lily and the eerie events that unfolded on her special day, events that still send chills down the spines of all who were present. Lily, an adventurous spirit with a fascination for the occult, decided to celebrate her birthday in a remote, abandoned mansion that had been rumored to be haunted for generations. The mansion stood on the outskirts of town, shrouded in a perpetual mist that seemed to cling to its decaying walls. As the guests arrived, an unsettling sense of foreboding settled over the group. The mansion's interior was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, cold to the touch and echoing with distant whispers. The air was thick with an inexplicable chill, and the flickering candlelight cast unsettling shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Lily, her eyes alight with excitement, welcomed her friends with an air of mischievous anticipation, as if she held a secret she was eager to share. As the night progressed, the atmosphere grew increasingly eerie. Laughter seemed to die in the air, replaced by hushed conversations and weary glances. Lily led her friends through a series of bizarre and unsettling games, each one designed to test their limits and challenge their perceptions. As they played, the walls seemed to close in, and the boundaries between reality and illusion began to blur. In one room, they attempted to communicate with spirits through an old Ouija board. The planchette moved with an otherworldly energy, spelling out cryptic messages that seemed to bear ominous warnings. The air grew heavy with a sense of unease, and some guests could swear they felt unseen fingers brush against their skin. The highlight of the night was a séance Lily orchestrated in the mansion's grand ballroom. The room was lit by a single candle, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls. As they joined hands in a circle, a strange energy seemed to fill the air, and the temperature dropped dramatically. Lily's voice took on an ethereal quality as she invoked the spirits, her eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent shivers down the spines of those present. Suddenly, the candle flame flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows that seemed to writhe and contort on their own. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candle and plunging them into darkness. Panic and confusion spread like wildfire, and screams pierced the air as something unseen brushed past them, its presence chilling them to the bone. In the chaotic darkness, Lily's voice cut through, urging everyone to hold hands and concentrate. As they did, a ghostly figure materialized before them, a woman in a tattered gown, her eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. She spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of the beyond, recounting a tragic tale of lost love and betrayal. With a final, mournful wail, the apparition dissipated, leaving the room in silence and darkness. When the lights finally flickered back on, the once grand ballroom was in a state of disarray. The guests stood shaken, their faces pale and haunted by the chilling encounter they had just witnessed. As the partygoers left the mansion, the morning sun broke through the mist, revealing a building that seemed to sag under the weight of its own history. Lily's birthday celebration had morphed into a night of unexplainable horrors, leaving everyone questioning the thin line between the living and the supernatural.